Linda, about the Chelsea Hotel. In Holland, a hotel is a place where people stay for short periods. The Chelsea Hotel is a place where people live for years on end. How does this work? Is it apartments or rooms or?
Well, the hotel is half resident living and it's half overnight guests. So it's simple, you know. We are always meeting new people coming in to stay for a week, a month, and then there's those of us who've been there for years. It's almost a block, and it's 10 stories high. We have a one-room, 521, a very large room, and the musicians used to come when they would be put up in New York City, and they would come with 5 or 6 of them with their guitars on their shoulders, and they would all stay in one of the best rooms, all sleeping, you know, in 3 or 4 beds, and, you know, very excited about being in New York City. And those were the days when that room was available, I don't know, some amount of money, but today, with the rents, they're not staying that way so much anymore. One of our painters has one of the largest apartments. He came in 1970, and he's had the apartment ever since. Today, those large apartments are extremely expensive, and most of them are on the 10th floor of the penthouse. Very expensive. Because our neighborhood became hip. When I first moved there, there was actually like a plastic in front of where the bellhops and, you know, the front desk, just in case, you know, sort of like a protective plastic, because it was kind of a little wild. And since then, the Chelsea galleries have come to this neighborhood, and it's, you know, it's the #1 real estate neighborhood in the city practically.
Do you have to be very rich to live there? Were you rich when you started? Are you rich now?
Yeah, well, you know, hopefully in the art world you generally get only so rich, but you're rich in values and rich in art and rich in friendships and connections, and certainly about the space, no. In the old days, like 15 years ago, for example, if you wanted to move up, Stanley would show you a few rooms that would be another couple $100 to, you know, to reach for a little bit more space, another closet or something like that, another room. But today, unfortunately, those spaces are premium, and, you know, with the real estate costs to run this hotel, everything has escalated. So there aren't a lot of fabulous apartments to be had, but they're beautiful studios, and a lot of students from FIT, with the help of their parents, can stay there. You know, so they're still cool places. I was already a photographer, but I never tried New York City. I photographed in Milan, in Paris, and a lot of locations. I lived in California, and at one point I was challenged to try New York. So I moved into this Chelsea neighborhood into a loft with a French boyfriend, broke off, and one of my collectors said, well, why don't you stay at the Chelsea while you're figuring out what to do? So I went to see Stanley, and he said, well, you know, we don't have too much available, but we have this room, and he took me to it, and he opened the door, and he said it was a writer's room, but it had a private bath, and a fabulously big closet, since I had a lot of things, and he opened the closet, and a snake jumped out. You know, it was still in its cage, and it was rather frightening, and he said, oh, well, that's a goth couple, they're leaving tomorrow. And, but he said, this is all I have. And so that's where I started, and I moved myself up to the 3rd floor and then to the 9th floor. So I've lived around the hotel. For many years, I lived through the camera. You know, it was like a second life. Not as much. I'm trying to live a little more without it, just to see what it's like. But yes, I carry my camera most places. I have it with me. I started with negatives, and I started with a very small camera. I started with the M3, Leica. And I love that little camera. I had a handheld light meter, a Weston light meter. We started at the very beginning, because early in my photography career, I was at Ansel Adams' assistant at Yosemite. And so I learned the zone system, and I worked with, even in 35 millimeter, I could work with placing my zones and considering how I would process my negative film. It was slowly after that that I got into color and slides. I was an assistant in 1974 for the Ansel Adams workshops, and worked with Ansel. I went to his cocktail parties. I help for his different talks. I wasn't one of his official color black and white printers, but I was involved with all those people. One would think that then I would have moved to a bigger camera and stuff like that, but Ansel, he would say, do what your body needs you to do. And there I was in the land of the famous landscape, and I was taking portraits of people at night and just experimenting with what my gut told me to do. And Ansel was very approving of that. It wasn't like, if you work around me, you have to do this. I moved to digital in 2000. I still have my darkroom, which I was thinking of putting on eBay. There's not much use for it anymore. We were just talking. I was saying that either one today goes further and further into Photoshop and digital techniques, and then there's this other feeling to get back in touch with some of the older cameras, the 8x10 camera, the sheet film, which is called slow photography, when you can only take 10 shots and really figure them out. And you can think back to Minor White, who used to have his students stare at a picture the entire 1 hour of your class just to get in touch with it. Today in Lightroom, you pass by a couple hundred in a short period of time. I had the opportunity to work with a couple of wonderful photographers and learn natural lighting and use of light discs. And I'm kind of a little master at working with discs that reflect light in a room. I work with a lot of them, and I've done a lot of my work natural.